Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is Bill Miles with the Hilton Head Island-Bluffton Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for dialing in this morning to join us again for our Power Hour Tele-Town Hall. We've got another stellar lineup for everyone this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about everything from history and culture all the way to RBC heritage and golf, as well as getting the most recent up-to-date information on vaccine deployment. You know, for the past year, we've continued to take a lead role to convey and convene and connect our community, and we're continuing to do just that. And you may remember that this time of year, we start talking about our popular State of the Region event. We've been holding that for over 2 decades now, which is hard to believe in itself. But as many of you may know, it's normally where we host about 750 of our business colleagues for lunch. But this year, unfortunately, we're going to be bringing that to everyone virtually instead of in person. And still expecting it to be a stellar, just a stellar group of speakers with great information that will be shared on the day of State of the Region. You know, I can't let the moment pass also without recognizing our sponsors who continue to stand side by side with us, even though it is virtually this year. And that's the Savannah Hilton Head International Airport, our friends at Hargrave Communications, as well as our event sponsor, Crowder Golf again. And as you know, those have been 3 companies, 3 organizations that have really been an integral part of State of the Region year after year and helping us to bring it forward each and every year. On a few notes about it, our keynote speaker will be U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham. So it's always interesting to hear what Senator Graham has to say, and he certainly never disappoints when it comes to speaking his mind on any topic, it seems. And then we'll also, as we've done in previous years, have the Mayor of Hilton Head Island, Mayor John McCann, as well as Mayor Lisa Salka from Bluffton. And we're delighted to have Mayor of Hardyville, Harry Williams, joining us this year, as well as County Council Chair Joe Passman. And then also, so our guests are going to be asked to answer some questions. And that's based on a recent survey asking the community what your top 3 areas of concern are in the Lowcountry. So I think you'll see some of those results that will surprise you from the surveys that we've seen so far. And we don't want you to miss the event. And we also ask that you might take time to participate in the survey. And Kelly is going to place that in the chat box that you'll see here in just a minute. And we'd ask that you please take a few minutes to complete that so we are able to ask the most relevant, most interesting, and important questions that you have. Well, vaccines now are open to all South Carolinians, and that's a great thing. And Hilton Head Regional Healthcare Market CEO Jeremy Clark and his team have streamlined process for vaccinations, which now include walk-in hours as well. And Jeremy, we're eager to hear from you this morning about where we are with vaccine deployment and how our hospitals in southern Beaufort County are doing. And welcome back. We're glad to have you this morning, Jeremy.
Great, Bill. I'm very glad to be here this morning. Can you hear me okay?
Sure do. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, there continue to be a lot of great things happening in our community, and very excited to be here with the group this morning to share some of them with you. To start off, like I always do, I'll tell you what we're seeing this morning in our hospitals. At Hilton Head Hospital and Coastal Carolina Hospital, we have a total of 3 COVID positive patients in-house, with none of these being in the ICU. So while this is a little bit more than the 0 that I was very proud to report last month when I was on this call, the number has stayed very low over the past month and continues to be much lower than we're seeing in other parts of the state and other parts of the country as well. So we still have plenty of capacity in both our medical beds and also our critical care beds to take care of patients that come this way. I'll also give an update on vaccine distribution. You alluded to it a few minutes ago in your introductions. And first I'll start off by reminding everyone that everyone who is 16 years of age and over is now eligible to receive this free vaccine. To date, in our community, our 2 hospitals have administered around 35,000 doses of the vaccine. And over the past month, we've done this at the Buckwalter Recreation Center in Bluffton, which has just been a fantastic location. We're so appreciative of Beaufort County for allowing us to have that location at no cost. And it's really allowed us to vaccinate many more individuals than we had been able to previously. And hopefully it also allowed for a much better experience for those being vaccinated as well. So very appreciative of the county for allowing us to have that space. Right now, we believe that the majority of older individuals in our community, those that are at most risk for serious illness or death from COVID-19, have been vaccinated, which is great. And we're also, at the same time, we're seeing more and more vaccine providers coming online in our community. The doctor's offices and pharmacies that are out there with DHEC support are really doing a great job of bringing vaccine supply to our community. As a result of this, we're seeing less demand at our clinic, and we're continually adapting to figure out better ways to vaccinate. And so as we're seeing less demand, we're doing a couple things over the next few weeks. One, we'll be advertising more, trying to get the word out there that the vaccine is safe, that it's free, and that it's still available in our community. We are also allowing walk-ins every afternoon, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so you do not need an appointment. You can just show up at the Buckwalter Recreation Center and receive your vaccine that way. And then finally, on Thursdays over the coming weeks, we're extending hours. So we're extending into 7 o'clock in the evening. So again, you can walk in, you don't need an appointment. If you need to come after work or after other obligations of the day, you can do so on Thursday. So we're having those extended hours, just really doing different things to try to make sure that if you want the vaccine, we've got a centralized location in our community for you to come and get it at no cost to you and to receive the safe vaccine. So overall, we're really excited about these changes, but we also know that we need to continue to adapt and work to vaccinate others in our community who have been more hesitant to do so. So as a result of that, and due to the decline in demand that we're seeing, we will actually stop offering first dose appointments at the Buckwalter Rec Center on Friday, May 7th. And then we will stop offering second dose appointments on Friday, May 28th, right before Memorial Day. And again, we're doing that because not only are there more vaccine suppliers in our community right now than there have been before, but also we're seeing a decline in demand. And we want to refocus and we want to transition to partnering with other community groups to really work in more targeted vaccination efforts in the community. So we were very excited to be able to offer the Buckwalter Recreation Center over the last few weeks, over the last month. But we think that the time is coming this summer for a little bit different approach. And so we'll be transitioning to that. So again, if you're 16 and over and you've not received your vaccine yet, please make an effort to do so. You can visit us at the Buckwalter Recreation Center on any afternoon, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You do not need an appointment. There's no cost, no charge to you. You can get your vaccine that way, or you can visit any one of the numerous other vaccine providers that are in our community and get your vaccine that way. Finally, I'll give one final update on COVID testing. So really over the past year, we've worked really hard to partner with the community to offer COVID testing at no charge to patients with no physician order required, no appointment required. We started doing this in these mass testing events in school parking lots about last summer. And then for a 6-month period from September 1 to March 1 of this year, we were offering this testing for 4 hours every weekday at 2 locations, one at Hilton Head Hospital and one at Coastal Carolina Hospital. We started to see the demand for testing decline, and so we've adapted our hours in March, and we've continued to see that demand for testing decline in April. That and in conjunction with the fact that DHEC is now offering free daily testing in our area in a site that they set up, which is outstanding. We've made the decision that our last day of offering the community testing at our 2 hospitals will be Thursday, April 29th. Again, with more providers coming online who can provide that testing option, and just combined with the decline in the demand that we're seeing, we felt like it was best in our interest, in the community's interest, to refocus our efforts in other areas. So a lot of great things going on. These are all good trends that we're seeing in our community. And throughout all this, I'll wrap up and I'll remind everyone that our hospitals remain ready to take care of COVID patients, but just as importantly and much more frequently, non-COVID patients as well. Really appreciate everyone's leadership at the state and the local level, and I really appreciate everyone's support for our caregivers. So Bill, with that, I will turn it back over to you and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Jeremy. And also congratulations and thank you on having the later hours on Thursday for workforce who might not have the ability to get there during regular hours. So thanks for that. And then we do have a few questions for you. The first question today is coming from Maggie, and Maggie's asking, are patients continuing to put off more routine medical procedures and testing due to COVID concerns?
It's a great question. We saw, last year about this time and into the summer and fall, we did see patients putting off procedures. More and more, we're seeing those patients coming back as they're getting more comfortable. Maybe they've personally been vaccinated, and so they know that they need care. They also know that we've created a safe environment to deliver that care in. So we are starting to see patients returning for those elective procedures or other procedures that they may have just put off in the past.
Thank you for that. Ted is asking if you're seeing younger patients with COVID come into the hospital or to be treated.
We continue to see patients with COVID, and some are younger. We have had, as I reported earlier, very few hospitalizations with COVID, either older or younger patients, which is a good trend to see. But it's a good reminder that COVID is still in our community and people are getting it, so we need to maintain those precautions that we know work.
All right. And May is asking, is the hospital allowing more than one guest now to visit non-COVID patient rooms and the emergency room?
Well, we did modify our visitation policy on April 1st. We feel like we've created a safe environment of care. So we relaxed our visitation standards for inpatients, for medical and surgical patients, so that they could have visitors. We also opened up visitation for laboring moms to up to 3 visitors. And we are evaluating our ER visitor policy and hope to make some changes to that very soon.
Jeremy, thank you. And I know you'll hear this again from our next speaker, but before you leave, I just wanted to recognize and thank you for you, your team, the hospital's leadership to help put on a safe PGA Tour event, the RBC Heritage last week. You all, as always, step up, and we're great partners with the Heritage Classic Foundation, and the community thanks you for doing that.
Great. Thank you, Bill. It's an honor to be involved with the Heritage. It was an outstanding event. We're fortunate we have a great team here who always does an excellent job keeping everyone safe. So thank you again for having me this morning.
All right, Jeremy, thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Too.
Well, we've gotten one RBC Heritage in the books, and it's hard to believe right now that we're 355 days and 31 minutes from the next RBC Heritage presented by Boeing. So I'd encourage you to mark your calendars right now for April 11 through 17, and that's next year of 2022. And I know our next speaker that's probably giving him more gray hair without this one being over yet, and already starting to talk about next year's. But what an outstanding tournament week it was. We all know that millions of viewers tuned in to CBS as well as the Golf Channel. Got to see Hilton Head Island at its finest. The Harbortown Golf Course just looked terrific. And then also what a special finish it was with our winner, Stuart Sink, and his family. It was one of the most touching probably endings on the PGA Tour. Just a great event. And so kudos to our next guest, Steve Wilmot, who's the tournament director and the president of the Heritage Classic Foundation. Steve, I know you haven't had a chance to catch your breath yet. Still lots to do. Thanks for joining us, and tell us what's on your plate and how the week went.
Well, Bill, I've already had 2 naps this morning, so I appreciate the rundown and the countdown to next year's tournament. But thank you. I appreciate the support, certainly the Chamber, and having these power hours, and how I got started about a year ago. But while I'm thinking about it, I'd like to thank Jeremy as well, and our medical advisor and his team. We have many head coaches out there, but he can't be a head coach without great teammates, and the hospital and the support that we had from them throughout the course of the last year. So it's been tremendous. And last week was just the icing on the cake to be a part of something so special. But if you look back at really what did and didn't happen in the last year, it's been a pretty amazing year for this entire community. For us to have the support and all the planning and the going into April that didn't happen, and then having needed to address that with the community, our partners, our volunteers, our ticket purchasers. And then a couple weeks later to address something that happened in June in a very unique fashion, but it was the right thing for us to do in difficult times. And it was the right thing for this community. And then 9 months later, plan an event that we knew was going to be limited capacity, not knowing what that was or what this was going to look like, being reimagined every day in real time throughout the course of the past 9 months. But I'd like to really thank and compliment and really the patience of our volunteers in this community was tremendous. Last week's efforts of our volunteers through tough times, knowing that we were following the protocols and the safety and health and well-being of everyone was the utmost importance. But, it wasn't an easy task in masking up and asking people to mask up last week, but our volunteers did an incredible job. And then our partners and our sponsors and a majority of the people listened and understood that we were doing something somewhat extraordinary in these times and putting on an event, trying to get back to normal, whatever the new normal will be. But really the efforts by all was so greatly appreciated. But something I really like to touch on is the fact that we talk about the tournament, and the tournament is almost the last thing that happens when I look at all that happens leading up to, and a majority of the people on this call, this community is in support in some form or fashion, or is impacted in some way. But if you think about it, these players, these partners, these sponsors are looking for needing accommodations. So they're working with this great community with hoteliers as well as villas and homes. And then they're needing to fly in. I look at the players and they fly into Savannah, Hilton Head, as well as the Hilton Head Airport, but they're provided vehicles at these locations. And Greg Kelly and his team over in Savannah, we have vehicles there for the players. And then on the back end, they drive up, they pull in the valet, and they take care of them and park them. There's a service that's provided. And then these players are driving here, coming to register. Well, guess where they register and where they were tested this year? It was at USCB on the island, working with Dr. Panu and his entire staff. It was incredible. And we also had player transportation out of there. Then you enter, Sea Pines and working with the community, but also the resort. And then the players come down, and the players and the caddies are treated to be a part of the bubble in the Harbor Town Clubhouse, but working closely with Sea Pines and food and beverage. And then you look at working with Sports America, our tent and bleacher company, but they're partnering and working with Hargrave, who's working with Palmetto Electric, who's working with Spectrum, who's working with our electrician, who's working with the Greenie with landscaping. So it's amazing the effort and the team efforts that are put forth by everybody in this community. Our spectators were treated to surge this year. We're running our concessions. Our sponsor village was catered by Southern Way Catering. Sea Pines handled Fraser's and all that was inside of the clubhouse and all. So there's so many moving parts, and it truly is a incredible feat, but it's a team effort. And to think of working with the town, working with the state, the support that we have there, and pulling off something as maybe it wasn't what we would like it to be or what it was in 2019, but it certainly was better than it was in 2020. But I look at, there's no playbook, there's no game plan. I compliment my team. I might be the head coach here, but if it wasn't for our teammates here to implement and execute the plan, working with all of you, all of this community, it wouldn't happen. And I also thank the trustees of the Heritage Classic Foundation and give us the support and resources to work on and best practices to be one of the premier events on the PGA Tour. So even though I can say I could go on and on and on, you can tell that I'm so appreciative, so thankful. I'm blessed to be a part of something as special as this, of the RBC Heritage presented by Boeing, but more importantly, to be in a community as special a special of ours, from volunteering to support and giving. And together we'll get through this. What the new norm will look like next year is being reimagined right now as we speak. But again, thank you so much for all that you have done, everyone out there, and supported us in having a great event last week.
Steve, congratulations. Just a couple of things for you. The first one is more of a statement, and the statement is from Jane, saying, I really enjoyed the sponsor village this year. Hope you'll be keeping some form of it next year. So something for you to think about on that. And then another question is coming in from Jim, and Jim is asking, how much does the purse increase each year, and what determines the increase?
Well, we have a contractual obligation to the PGA Tour, but it also coincides with our agreement with RBC as our title sponsor and Boeing with a presenting sponsor. But the purse was held the same from last year. It was 7.1 this year, and it was to have been 7.4 this year, and will be at 7.4 next year. But it's a part of the television. It's a part of the negotiation with the tour and TV that determines the purse.
Next one is just saying it's from Rick and saying congratulations on an outstanding event in 2021. Then we have another question for you, Steve, coming in from looks like another. This is from Steve, and Steve is asking, Steve, will you be assisting in the 2021 Palmetto Championship that will be held at Congaree?
Not necessarily assisting. I guess you can say we're consulting or so. We have met with the PGA Tour Champ Management, which is the sports marketing arm of the PGA Tour. We'll be managing it, but we're sending something out today to all our volunteers. We're currently, operationally, we've talked to them with letting them know about our resources. They certainly know about us. We're there to support them however we can. And it's exciting for this community to think that next month up in Kiowa, another PGA, it's a PGA championship, but then over to Congaree in June, and it's CBS. So it's going to be a lot of great airtime for the state of South Carolina, especially the Low Country.
Steve, congratulations to you and your team for a wonderful event again, and we appreciate your leadership, all that you do, and thanks for making Hilton Head Island look so fabulous on TV.
Thank you and your team, Bill, for sure, and thank you everybody out there. Appreciate it, and look forward to 2022.
Get some rest.
Will do.
All right. That was Steve Wilmot talking all things RBC Heritage. And again, congratulations to Steve and his team on a wonderful event. We're going to change subjects now, and we're going to talk about masking and whether to mask or not to mask after vaccination, and what's happening with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and also about South Carolina rates of virus and hospitalizations. Are they on an upward trend, a downward trend? And to tell us about that is our good friend with DHEC, Dr. Jane Kelly, who it's always an honor and pleasure to have with us.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So hang on a second. Let me pull up my slides. So I have cautious good news in that we have not seen the peak that we anticipated the post-Easter and Passover and spring break events. We are in a plateau. So this is showing the 7-day moving average of reported COVID cases by regions. Upstate remains higher than the Low Country and the PD, but that general downward trend is a very positive thing. We're a little worried about the plateau. We suspect the plateau has to do with the lack of vaccination and behaviors of mostly younger people, because when we look at our hospitalizations, our case rates, hospitalizations, it's definitely a trend among the younger generation, ages 20 to 30 and 30 to 40. But nevertheless, I feel like we do have some good news. We want to be optimistic, but still bring home that message of continuing with our mitigation measures, masking, and getting people vaccinated. So if we look at The trend over the past 2 weeks for incidents, that's new cases, the average in South Carolina is 108 cases per 100,000 people. And just to put that in perspective, that's a little bit lower than the United States as a whole at 113 over 100,000 persons. In contrast to, for example, Michigan, which is more than 4 times as high with the number of new cases, 485 cases per 100,000 people. In terms of death rate, we are dramatically decreased in the number of deaths. So yes, cases have plateaued, but deaths continue to decrease. And that makes sense because most of our over 65 population is now fully vaccinated. Sorry for the dog barking. And that is the population most at risk for severe disease and mortality. I do want to give you a little bit of an update on what's going on in schools. In South Carolina, we've had many schools return to in-person classes, in-person teaching, and we have a new program for in-school COVID-19 testing. This says for students, but it's also for teachers and for staff. We have some new funding to do rapid testing and PCR testing on a routine basis. And we're working with individual school districts to tailor this to local needs. So what do I mean by that? Some schools, for example, are interested in testing a large number of students, faculty, staff on a routine basis, once a week or even twice a week for faculty and once a week for students, doing rapid tests by the school nurses, or there are some rapid tests that are that individuals can use. There are even rapid tests that you can do at home without a physician's prescription. So there's a number of ways of doing this. We can also do pooled tests where we batch the tests together to run them. And if the entire pool is negative, then you know all of those individuals tested were negative. If the pool is positive, you go back and test people individually. The reasons for doing this, we know we have a downward trend. However, we still don't have vaccine for kids under age 16. We hope that we will have vaccine available perhaps as early as this summer for kids age 12 through 15, but we still don't have a vaccine and probably won't by the school year, by the fall school semester for kids under age 12. So we want to employ routine testing as part of a package. There's no one single thing. I know I have hammered home how important masks are, but masks by themselves aren't going to do it alone. Each piece of this is a component. You want to find infections, isolate them as soon as possible, and prevent spreading. And the testing is easier than ever before. It's no longer the brain biopsy and nasal pharyngeal test. It's an anterior nasal swab, meaning it's just the front of your nose, and there's a spit test. And kids do like the spit test. I do want to give you an update on the Janssen vaccine. As you know, there's a pause on this vaccine. More than 6.8 million people were vaccinated with the Janssen vaccine in the United States. There were 6 cases of a very unusual blood clot disorder. This is a blood clot in the veins that drain your brain, cerebral venous thrombosis. All of those 6 cases were among women, age 18 to 48. That says 6 to 16. I'm sorry, I need to update this. Is 6 to 13 days after vaccination. So within 2 weeks, this is a severe disorder. One person has died. As you can imagine, if you have blood clots in the veins that are draining your brain, you get brain swelling. It's a serious disorder. And it's a strange immune disorder. It's associated with low platelets. I could get into a lot of details. The bottom line around this is that, number one, it's extremely rare. But number 2, CDC wanted this pause so that they have enough time to investigate it and enough time to educate physicians about what's going on here. The Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, ACIP, will meet on Friday, having spent the past week trying to reinvestigate everything that's been reported to them, try and put the plea out to other physicians across the nation to find out, are there any other cases that were missed or were misattributed? They thought a person had a stroke or other unusual blood clotting events. And just to put this in perspective, this is a graphic I took. It was created in Europe, where they have had similar weird blood clots associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is similar to the Janssen vaccine in the way it is manufactured. And just to put it in perspective, you know, how rare these blood clots are compared to some other things that cause blood clotting as well. Birth control pills, for example, you have 500 to over 1,000 cases per 1 million women in a year. Smoking itself increases the risk of blood clots. And compared to COVID infection itself, any vaccine has a much, much, much lower rate of a risk of blood clots compared to COVID infection itself. And for Janssen, for the number of 6 cases and almost 7 million doses given, you can see how rare this is. So I suspect that ACIP, CDC will come back with recommending use of this vaccine, perhaps with some precautions, like don't use it in women under age 50. It depends upon what their investigation reveals. One of the things that this investigation tells me and should tell all of us is that we have an early warning system for vaccine safety that works. I mean, how do you find 6 cases out of almost 7 million doses of vaccine? It's through this system, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. This is a system run by CDC that has a tremendous strength in detecting rare adverse events. So if there seems something unusual is happening, it will be captured through this system. But something unusual happening sometimes can be a coincidence. So it doesn't necessarily pick up on things that are caused by vaccines. Some things could be a coincidence. No one thinks that these blood clots are a coincidence. They are very unusual. It's an unusual immune phenomenon. But just so that you know, physicians are required by law to report adverse events that are severe. Anyone can report adverse events of any type. So for example, if you had severe headaches or some symptom that you thought was important for CDC to know about, you can report it via this VAERS system. You just Google VAERS and it'll bring you to the online reporting page. As I mentioned, ACIP is going to reconvene on this Friday to make their recommendations. I suspect that they will recommend the Janssen vaccine. Right now it's being paused everywhere. The places that we've sent Janssen vaccine to, the pharmacies, the hospitals, the mobile units, we've just asked them, don't destroy it, don't send it back, just hold it. It can keep from 6 months at refrigerator temperature. So just hold it until we have more information. That's all I was going to bring you today because I suspected there might be a good bit of questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kelly. And the first question we have is coming from Kathy. And Kathy is asking if someone has had reactions to other vaccinations, such as the hives, stomach issues, or other things, how concerned should you be about getting this vaccine?
If you've had a reaction to the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine with the first dose and you're afraid to get the second dose, I assume that's what the question is. Hives by itself is not a contraindication. You can get the second dose. And we do recommend that you get the second dose of the same one that you started with. On the other hand, if you had a true severe allergic reaction, an anaphylactic reaction with shortness of breath or tightness in your chest to the first dose of Pfizer and Moderna, do not get another dose of either one of those vaccines because they're very closely related. It would be reasonable to get the Janssen vaccine instead.
Thank you for that. Maggie is asking, how does someone get a rapid test at home?
They're available now over the counter. So check with your local pharmacy. I'm not sure if they're available for sale online. They might be, but they are, I think, about $16 for 2 tests. It comes with a special cartridge so you can do your own tests. So, they're not unreasonably expensive. They're made through Binax, B-I-N-A-X. They make a variety of tests. Some of them require a physician's prescription, some of them don't, but there are over-the-counter ones available now.
Okay, thank you. Roger is asking, how soon do you believe we'll have the research to determine whether those who are vaccinated still need to wear masks?
So that research is accumulating now, and there's a number of good things along that line. I still want to urge people, we're not out of this yet, so please, I still want to urge people to wear masks a little bit longer. You know, we're getting closer, but we're not there yet. But among the research, the data points that have been helpful, number one, what is the risk of a person who's been fully vaccinated, meaning 2 weeks after your second dose of Pfizer or Moderna? People who are fully vaccinated, they did a study with workers in healthcare settings. These are people who are exposed again and again to COVID-19. What's their rate of picking up infection that might be asymptomatic and transmitted to others? It is 90% decreased compared to other people who are workers in healthcare settings who weren't vaccinated. So we have increasing information that people who are fully vaccinated have a very low risk, not zero, but a low risk of picking up the virus and being contagious, transmitting it to others. So that's good news. The other good news is that as time goes on, we get more and more information about duration of immunity. You know, you get vaccinated, how long will that immunity last? It is now widely reported that with all of these vaccines, that duration of immunity, antibodies last at least 6 months. Now that's not only 6 months, that's at least 6 months. And with antibody levels still high at 6 months, and T cells, which are another part of your immune system, they're the memory cells. They're the ones that are going to remember even as your antibody levels start to go down. They're the ones that will rev up if you're reinfected. There's good evidence for long-lasting immunity with those as well. How long is long? You know, is it years or is it just 1 year? That remains to be seen.
Okay, thank you. Cameron is asking if you know where in Beaufort County that DHEC is doing daily testing.
I don't know off the top of my head, but that information should be on our DHEC website.
Okay, thank you. And then John is asking, how does South Carolina rates compare to other states?
So our rates are lower than of new cases and of deaths, lower than the national average, lower than some of our surrounding states, such as Georgia and Florida and North Carolina, I believe. There are some states with lower rates than ours, but on average, we are lower. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on that.
Dr. Kelly, keep up the good work. And thank you so much for being with us again today.
Thank you. And if I can just add one thing to my keeping fingers crossed doesn't do anything. Wearing your mask, talking to people about if you've been vaccinated, share your experience. We still have a low vaccination uptake among young people. They think they're not at risk. They are at risk. You know, it is still possible for young people to get severe disease. It is still possible for young people to pick up infection, spread it to others. The way out of this, the way we can get rid of our masks is getting more people vaccinated. So share your vaccine experiences. Please talk to young people. Thanks.
Great advice. It sounds like your other biggest fan is in the background there.
I should have put her outside. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. That was Dr. Jane Kelly from DHEC. Our next guest is the vision leader and executive director for one of America's most cultural assets. It was recently included as part of the Reconstruction Era National Historic Network. Hilton Head Island is home to the first freedmen's town in the nation. And here to give us an update on the historic Mitchellville Preservation Project is Executive Director Ahmad Ward. Ahmad, welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I am going to do a quick share here, and we'll move quickly through some things. As soon as I figure out how to move this out of my way.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ahmad, you're looking as dapper as always this morning.
I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. I'll pay you later. So as Bill has already mentioned, and we're so excited, we did get some Reconstruction Era Monument Network notification, but I want to start with something I talked about the last time I was here. And that is us getting some money from the National Trust for Historic Preservation to do some archaeological work at the park. And so we received about $50,000 as a matching grant. So we had to have $100,000 of our own funds to make things happen. And so what this allowed us to do was to completely map the park in a way that allows us to figure out exactly all the things that we want to put in the park, where it can go without being a problem for archaeological deposits that are already there. And so what we've been able to do, and this started in November and went to January. Catherine Sieber, who's been doing the work on our project for a long time, that's her in the yellow hat digging in the hole there, was able to map out the entire park area according to our plan. And so you can see that here in the diagram. And so each of these quadrants represents a piece where they did geophysical research, sonar, magnetometry, a bunch of other names I can't pronounce, to make sure that we can see what's under the ground. And so we've been able to find a lot of things, including the evidence that we already knew was there of a 4,000-year-old Native American imprint, which we already decided to incorporate into our plans. And so this will help us as we move forward to start building on the site, to know exactly where we can build and do it safely without causing any issues to anything that is already there. So we are so excited to be added to the Reconstruction Area National Historic Network. This has been a conversation that's been going on for probably close to 3 years, because we kind of lost a year last year, obviously. And so this puts us with 66 other sites that are directly connected to Reconstruction. We view Mitchellville as the rehearsal to Reconstruction. This was a template for where all future free towns could have looked like. It had all of the elements that was necessary for Reconstruction. And if Reconstruction didn't hit some road bumps, and we won't go into the details on that story, we think this would have been the blueprint for all the other towns in the South. And so we're excited to be a part of this network. This gives us the opportunity to collaborate with other NPS sites and all the other sites along the network to promote the importance of Reconstruction era history and to do some important programming along the way. So this is a big deal for us, and we're really excited about this. Moving right along, we have made this switch to digital, of course, for obvious reasons, but things are starting to open up. But because we made such an impact with our programs, we're continuing to do that. So that's in February, we were able to explore the Families of Historic Mitchellville, our Freedom Day program. Freedom Day happens every February the 1st, and we usually do this in conjunction with the Gullah celebration here on Hilton Head Island. And so we were able to look at about 5 families who live on Hilton Head right now, who have deep connections to Mitchellville. We did this in conjunction with Low Country Gullah and some of our friends down at the bottom. So that presentation got us a lot of feedback, and we're actually going to implement some of this into an upcoming Juneteenth celebration, which I'll talk about in just a second here. So we will continue to work on a virtual Juneteenth. We did a virtual Juneteenth last year, which reached about 40,000 people across the country. We've added a couple of museums. These are the original partners, the Black Archives in Miami, Northwest African American Museum in Seattle, the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit, and of course the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, which is the site where Dr. King was assassinated. So we have also looking to add the August Wilson Cultural Center. We're looking to add the Anacostia Museum in DC, and also the California African American Museum. So we are building this presentation right now, and this will be broadcast around June 19th this year, but we also will be doing a live festival. We'll be able to get back into the park because, as the good doctor just said a minute ago, people are getting vaccinated. So we actually have some range to let people back in the park at certain levels. So we've already been in conversation with people about doing safety measures. And so the Office of Cultural Affairs is helping us to maintain some volunteers in the park. That'll be managed sanitation stations for our event. That'll be 11 to 3 on June the 19th. And we have a couple of early events that'll be starting in the week, Thursday to Friday, that you'll hear more about as we get closer to the time frame. But we're looking forward to seeing each of you back in the park for Juneteenth this year, 2021. And so Saturday, this past Saturday, we were able to have our annual Blues and Barbecue fundraisers. First time we've done something like this virtually. And so it went off fairly without a hitch there. But we had the incredible Marlene Smalls and Gwenny Van TC Soul to do this fundraiser. The proceeds for this are going to go to installation of bateau-shaped interpretive panels. in the park. And these interpretive panels are going to talk about the connection of Gullah culture to Mitchellville. And so we raised about $50,000 last weekend. So we feel really good about that, especially since it was virtual. So we're really excited about what that's going to do. And we hope that these panels help us to prime the pump for when we get into the actual campaign to raise the $22.8 million that we want to raise to make this thing happen. We're looking at a feasibility strategy right now. We've got a couple of high-level national targets that we're looking at because we do believe this is a national story, and this will allow us to do things at the park that'll set us apart from everywhere else. Bill said it earlier, we are the first self-governed town of formerly enslaved people in the United States. This is a keystone part of American history. And on top of all that, this is an American story that the island can be proud of. And we hope everybody else will be proud of it as well. And so with that, this is how you can reach us always, exploremitchellville.org. We should be unveiling a brand new website hopefully next month. So keep your eyes out for that. And you can catch up with all of the regular things that we're doing at Mitchellville on our Facebook, Twitter, and also Instagram. Just put in Mitchellville and you will get right to us. So with that, I will stop my share and I'll answer any questions that you may have. And thanks for the opportunity.
Ahmad, thank you. What a great presentation and how exciting it is to hear that we're finally going to get people back in the park, and impressed with the safety measures that you all are putting in place. And I'm sure that's going to be a wonderful time. A couple of questions for you here. One is, Ben is asking, when you think the master plan that you showed earlier will be completed?
Well, the master plan actually is complete. We have completed the master plan. It's been approved at town and county level. And so now we have to work through all the rigmarole of getting infrastructure together, raising funds. I'm sorry, I got a dog in the background here too. Who's kind of noise. And so we think that since the plan has been approved, and that answers, okay, chill. Sorry, these claws in hardwood do not make. So we think the plan, which is already in completion, as I mentioned, because we're at the level that we are now, we're able to put that plan out there to aid us in fundraising. So we're actually sending that plan out to potential fundraisers, the people who could fund us, both individual donors and also foundations, to use that as our big tool to try to encourage funding support. Of course, it takes a lot of cultivation to do a project at this level, but so far so good. And so that plan is completed. We will be putting elements of this plan on the new website. So look for that. You can see, if you haven't seen the map of the whole area and some of the details, you will be able to go to our website and see that as early as next month. So please keep your eyes tuned to that. That's exploremitchellville.org.
Thank you. And next question is asking if you know if Mitchellville history will be part of the new African American Museum project in Charleston.
Yes, there will be some connectivity there. We have been working with the International African American Museum to do some things. They have just brought in a new executive director, Tanya Matthews, to run that organization, and so we plan on making some contact with them. But as far as the whole area, they're going to be covering the coastline of South Carolina and the diaspora itself. So Mitchellville will be a part of that. We don't know to what extent yet. And so we'll hope to be on the ground floor of that conversation so we can have some influence. We'll see how that goes.
All right, thank you. Donna is asking, what are visitors most surprised about when they come to Mitchellville?
The entire story, honestly. The fact that something of this magnitude was on Hilton Head, and most people don't know about it. The fact that you had William Lloyd Garrison and Clara Barton and Harriet Tubman be connected to this site, and we haven't talked about it in history books, and you don't see it in regular curriculum. People are surprised by the size that you had, 500 homes, 3,000 people, a couple of hundred acres of on this site, and that this was the site of the first mandatory school system in the state of South Carolina, and all children aged 6 to 15 had to go to school. There's a lot of elements there to take people off guard, and the fact that it's kind of nestled on the heel of the shoe of Hilton Head, and people don't know about it. So our job is to change that, and I think we're doing it day by day.
All right, JT is asking on our last question here, how many visitors each year explore Mitchellville prior to COVID?
Wow. I think based on our numbers, and we count events, we did count some virtual events last year, but as far as regular visitation, the last time before everything shut down, we probably touched right around 70,000 people, which sounds crazy, but that also includes a major outreach at Westin Hotel, because we have an exhibition on the second floor. We count those numbers. We see anywhere between 19 to 22,000 people that see that exhibition every year at the Westin. And then there are people in the park every single day, and we can't keep track of all of them. And so at some point during this development, before we can open up, we were going to try to figure out a way we can track folks just a little better in the park so we can know exactly where people are coming from and why they're there. But it's a very popular spot for people to come, not just to walk their dogs, but to go down to probably one of the prettiest beaches on Hilton Head. We're a little biased, but also just a really beautiful natural area with some information that gives some insight into a very important part of American history.
Ahmad, thank you. And thank you for a great presentation today. And also, we're just so fortunate to have you leading these efforts for the project and for town of Hilton Head Island, et cetera. It's so important, and you're doing a great job. We appreciate you.
I appreciate that. And I guess dogs are the co-stars today on the call. So I'm glad I can
They are. They are. You have a great rest of your day, Ahmad.
You too. Thank you.
Great to see you. And those are some big numbers that are going through the park. Well, speaking of parks, tomorrow's Earth Day, and I want to let you know that our entire chamber team will be cleaning our beaches tomorrow morning alongside the Outside Foundation. And if you have a free morning tomorrow, I encourage you to participate as well. And Kelly will put a registration link there, how you can get involved if you would like to participate. And then I'll also remind you that please register for State of the Region, which is next Wednesday morning. And we're looking forward to a large virtual crowd for that. Thank you for joining us all. Continue to stay safe, be kind, and have a great week. Thank you.